Hello my friends and welcome. Today I would like to show you a different way of casting on the stitches. It gives you result like that. This one here I'll show you today, it's called Italian casting on. I'm not sure if Italians cast this way on. Nevertheless, let's go through it. First we'll make slip knot. And we'll keep short end of the yarn towards us. And put our fingers like that. And then moves will be the same each time. The first stitch we will make is this way. You go under yarn which is over your thumb and over your forefinger yarn, and just rotate your needle out. That's one stitch there, and the second stitch will be over the forefinger yarn and under the thumb, and just rotate it out. So it's under, over, and over, under, under, over, and over, under. And you look at the stitches now. This looks a little bit like purl stitch. So the next stitch would be under, over, and this one here a little bit reminds knit stitch. Over, under, under, over, and over, under. This casting on is for a single rib, 1 by 1. I will cast a required amount of stitches. So we look at this one. This yarn, forefinger yarn, goes over the thumb one. So we know the next stitch is under, over, like that, and then over and under. Last stitch we will cast on usual way, like that. Just to make a little knot here so the stitches don't slide off the needle. And this is how they look. They sit sort of in pairs on the needle. We turn our knitting around. The first row, we'll take the first stitch off. Have a close look at this stitch here. See, there's little yarn over, like a little bump. Almost looks like purl stitch. So here we'll take yarn in front of the work, go purlwise into the stitch, like that, and just slip it off needle without knitting, like that. The next stitch is our knit stitch, and we will knit it through the back loop here. Now again, purl stitch here. So we put our yarn in front of the work here, and then go purlwise into the stitch and slip it off the needle without knitting it. Next is knit stitch. We knit through the back loop, and after that purl stitch, yarn in front of the work, and we slip the stitch off. And we will continue till the end of the row. First row is the hardest. Just make sure your stitches are not twisted around. As you go, just turn them in the right way. Now I'm at the end of row 1. My last stitch is purl stitch. I'm just going into the stitch, yarn in front, slip it off, and the last edge stitch we will purl like that. So our first row is done. We turn knitting over. Yeah, I forgot to tell you, in order for it to look nice and neat, casting on and next 2 rows, we use 1 or 2 sizes smaller needles. In my case, that's size 4. And for the main rib stitch I will use size 5. So we're row number 2. We'll slip first stitch off. And now here, our knit stitch is already sitting with right side facing us. We will knit it in ordinary way, usual way, like that. And with purl stitches, we do the same thing. With yarn in front of our work, we just slip the stitch off. Next knit and purl stitch, go into it purlwise, keep the yarn in front of the work and slip it off the needle and continue to the end of the row. I'm at the end of the row and this stitch here is knit stitch, so I will knit it, and edge stitch I will purl the usual way. Now we've done 2 rows and we will change to bigger needles, and the 3rd row will be our usual rib stitch 1 by 1. We slip off first stitch, and here we have purl, so we purl and knit. 1 purl, 1 knit, and we'll continue to the end of the row there. I'm at the end of row number 3. That's knit stitch and purl stitch here and purl the edge stitch. I'll put the smaller needle away. Now I've done 4 rows here, and as you can see we have beautiful cast on, which sort of goes like straight towards. After the washing, it will also sort itself out, and it looks the same from either right or wrong side of the knitting. Just show you. So this is our usual cast on. That's from the right side, and that's the wrong side there. Little bumps here, and this is Italian casting on. It's stretchy and gives neat edge there. Here. And circular knitting, we will start exactly the same with slip knot to start with, and then we'll go again under, over, over, under, and here again we do the last stitch and usual cast on. My stitch is on. I'll put them on 4 needles. Now I divided them on my needles, and as usual we need to check very carefully this time just to make sure that the stitches are not twisted. We take our 5th needle. This is the first stitch we casted on the needles, and that was slip knot. And I have a look. My next stitch will be knit stitch here, so just the first stitch we will purl as usual. in order to connect our knitting together in a circle. And then just make sure you tighten everything up so we don't have any gap there. And the next is exactly the same as in flat knitting. So I knit my first stitch and slip off the purl stitch, knit my first knit and purl the yarn in front of the work. And we move to second needle here. Now this time I have, if you notice, knit stitches are the right way on, so I don't knit them through the back loop, I knit them as usual. Knit and purl stitch goes off the needle, the yarn in front of the work. It's a bit hard to see, it looks like turned around twisted knit stitch, but it's actually purl stitch, so we will take it off with yarn. And the next one is knit stitch for me, like that. So we've done the first row in circular knitting. The second row is the same as in flat knitting. Our first stitch is purl stitch here. So with the yarn in front of our work here, we slip it off without knitting and knit the knit stitch. If purl stitch is at the end of the needle, you slip it off and just keep your yarn there and start with the next stitch, which is knit stitch. Now I've done 2 rounds, and I'm going to change my needles to larger size. And here I will just continue with the usual rib stitch one by one. So purl first one and knit the second. This is how it looks cast on in circular knitting. When you cast the stitches on, make sure you count them very carefully so you don't do the same stitch twice, and you will have a little mistake, which will be, you will be able to see because I've done it here. I just want to show you. It sort of stands out. I won't be redoing this, but if it's done rightly, then it's really beautiful. I'll be showing another way of doing that, which will end up with the same result, and that will be the next video, and there we will need 2 different yarns for that one.